In recent years, thanks to the Belt and Road Initiative, China is boosting arms exports and is racing to become a power, competing with Russia and the United States. According to the China National Petroleum Corporation, in March 2019, in the past 5 years, China has become one of the largest arms exporters in the world, next to the United States, Russia, France, and Germany. Those nations accounted for 3/4 of the total volume of arms exported over the past 12 years, according to SIPRI data. China has exported 16.2 billion units of ammunition, mostly to countries in Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. The potential market and loose restriction in the developing world may take China well positioned to become one of the largest arms exporters in the world. So, what is the motivation for China to race to become an arms exporting power? According to Yan Mian, a political analyst at the Center for International Relations of the Chinese Academy of Communications, during terrorism and extreme violence taking place in many parts of Africa, terrorist organizations as Boko Haram and Al-Qaeda in the Muslim Maghreb are active. Governments in the region need to strengthen their defense capabilities, and China can fully support this. He also said that China and Africa can cooperate with the United States to solve the piracy problem. So, Beijing can send patrol boats to the waters of Somalia and the Gulf of Aden to escort ships, helping countries in the region fight piracy. According to China analyst Yan Mian, cooperation between China and Africa has a long history. During the 20th century, Beijing supported African countries in the fight for independence from colonial governments. These historical ties have laid the foundation of the mutual trust and good cooperation between China and African countries within the Belt and Road Initiative. Beijing has an advantage in Africa as its weapons and equipment are cheaper than those of the West, but by no means inferior in quality. In addition, Beijing does not interfere in the domestic affairs of African countries. This is the reason why China's arms exports to Africa increased by 55% from 2013 to 2017. From 2008 to 2012, although during this time Africa has reduced its total arms imports down 22%, the arms that China supplies to Africa increased from 8.6% to 17%. As a result, China has surpassed the United States, which accounts for only 11% of arms export to Africa. In recent years, China has significantly increased arms sales, both in terms of the number of African countries participating in procurement agreements and the types of weapons and military equipment being sold. China has supplied tanks and armored fighting vehicles to Tanzania, Chad, Gambia, Namibia, Rwanda, Burundi, Mozambique, and Gabon. Meanwhile, Beijing has sold fighter jets and unmanned aerial vehicles to Nigeria, Tanzania, Zambia, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Ghana, missiles and rocket launchers for Morocco, Sudan, Yemen, while Congo, Ghana, Sudan, Cameroon, Tanzania, Niger, and Rwanda have imported artillery systems from China. Most African countries mainly import military equipment from the former colonial powers in the region or from Russia and the Eastern European countries. However, now China believes that it is necessary to put pressure on the suppliers of traditional weapons in Africa from the market themselves, and at the same time assert themselves more advantageous as an arms exporter and equipment. The reason for this is quite understandable because China is seeking to protect assets and infrastructure projects in the Dark Continent. Beijing has many investments in Africa and large-scale railway projects in the region. Sherbakov explained that this can be considered as direct defense like in the Darfur region of Sudan, with the support of the United Nations peacekeeping force, or indirect protection when China nations recognize the necessity of gaining influence in certain African countries. Therefore, the recent China-Africa Defense and Security Forum is an effective tool to achieve the above-mentioned purposes. By sharing experiences and best practices, countries create a whole new atmosphere for cooperation. In addition, it also helps Beijing pursue its economic interests in Africa and boost arms sales. The creation of their own forum of consultation and cooperation among military commanders between China and African countries to help Beijing achieve a variety of goals. China has invested a lot of money in Africa, creating close relationships with many countries and the African Union. China has a strong political, economic, and commercial presence, only military, not widespread in Africa. It consists of 3 goals. The first is to expand and strengthen China's presence, thereby gaining greater influence in the Dark Continent. The second is armed at the need to strengthen the armament of African countries. China is one of the major arms manufacturers and exporters in the world. African countries have great demand and potential markets. The third is to project China's interest in Africa by military means when necessary.